What's happening, viewers? So, Microsoft warns of an uptick in hackers leveraging publicly disclosed zero-day vulnerabilities. This is very important. Microsoft put out a warning that there's an increase in the amount of zero-day vulnerabilities that have been leveraged. The threat actors have been aggressively moving towards using these vulnerabilities to carry out exploit. So they also noted that it takes 14 days on average for an exploit to be available in the wild after public disclosure of the flaw. And the Cyberspace Administration of China enacted a new vulnerability reporting regulation that requires that security flaws be reported to the government first. I think this is a good move because since it's a zero-day vulnerability where there are no ways to mitigate that, it puts the companies and organizations at a disadvantage. So Microsoft created a 114-page digital defense report, and it said that it observed a reduction in the time between the announcement of vulnerabilities and the commoditization of that vulnerability. So it was important for them to patch exploits as soon as possible. And in April 2022, an advisory from the US Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, found that the bad actors were aggressively targeting newly disclosed software bugs against broad targets globally. And this 14 days was basically calculated by CISA. Also, some of the vulnerabilities that were first exploited by Chinese actors before being picked up includes several CVEs, which were remote code execution flaws in solar winds, and also authentication bypasses, remote code execution, and object graph navigation language. All of these are common threats that are out there in the wild today. And what is happening now is that the threat actors are getting smarter, and they realize that if they can leverage these vulnerabilities within that 14-day window, then it will be more likely that they will have a successful attack. And this just goes to show that the space is changing and things are evolving every day. So we need to be on top of it just as much as the threat actors are on top of things. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds in terms of the laws and the requirements in cybersecurity. The question is, now that this is a thing where zero-day attacks are being leveraged, what can organizations do about this? There's not much on the end of zero-day attacks because there are simply no patches available. However, if you are following the cybersecurity best practices recommended by NIST or CISA, then you will definitely be on your way to mitigating it somewhat. So some of the best practices include least privileges, which means that you're going to make sure that each user only has as much privilege as is necessary for them to carry out their function. You want to make sure you have multi-factor authentication, especially if it comes to access to devices that have sensitive data. You also want to make sure that your firewall rules are very limiting in terms of the services. You don't want any service on there that's not really necessary or that you cannot justify. You also want to make sure that in your environment you don't have any features that you're not currently using. You want to make sure that there's soft cybersecurity awareness with the staff and all of that. You know, there are several best practices. So once you are following those, you could pick CISA or NIST or any of the other risk-based frameworks. So just by following those, you will be well on your way to at least minimizing the possibility of these zero-day attacks. Other than that, you just have to make sure that as soon as a patch is available, that you update accordingly. So this one was very interesting, and this is something that I look forward to hearing more about future developments as to what can be put in place for this, as we can see things are changing in the cybersecurity world. Just give some feedback, give some comments. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get notified when I put new content out as usual. Thank you for viewing again, and I look forward to seeing you again on the next video.